What's up? What's up? What's up, good people? I'm gonna hold on for just a couple minutes while we do this quick pop-up live. Won't be before you guys long, but figured I would hop on and talk about the news of the day, the events of the day, the final HBCU football media day of the year. Of course, MEAC football media day. I am currently still here in the charm city of Baltimore, Maryland. Please, guys, in the chat, please let me know where you guys are checking out from. And if you watched MEAC Media Day, which just wrapped up a couple of hours ago, I was able to get back to the room, pump out some more content and, get a little bit of rest before hopping on and talking a little bit about the news of the day in what I would say easily in my 20 years of covering HBCU sports and 10 years of going to the MEAC Media Day specifically, this was definitely the most anticipated MEAC Media Football Day of them all. And, it remains to be seen whether or not it will be the most talked about MEAC Media Day of them all. But obviously, this was what they were going for, right? Just the fact that we are here in Baltimore, Maryland, and not in MEAC headquarters over at, in the MEAC's backyard over at Norfolk, Virginia, says a lot. I remember back in December when the news broke that Michael Vick would be the next head coach of Norfolk State University. There was, lots of rumors and nobody was sure that it was going to happen. And then, the news broke and I was like, well, I'm pretty sure that MEAC Media Day there's going to be an uptick. And then only a couple of days later, we found out that LeSean McCoy was going to be the LeSean McCoy. Ooh, yeah, that is a whole different conversation with a whole different set of reactions. But that LeSean McCoy was going to be his teammate, Deshaun Jackson, was going to be hired as the Delaware State head coach. So, yeah, I knew MEAC Media Day was definitely going to take a jump then. I didn't know that it would be here in Baltimore. There was a partnership with the Ravens that was formed. Sashi Brown he works for the Ravens, previously worked for the Cleveland Browns. He's a Hampton graduate. So there was a connection there. And, the MEAC, for its part, has been, definitely it's the youngest of the 4 HBCU conferences in the NCAA. And, even amongst the Division I's with the SWAC, it kind of takes a back seat in football for sure. Even before the MEAC saw the deflections that they saw, but also since then for sure. And so, again, I've been coming to the MEAC Media Day pretty faithfully since 2015. For the most part, there's usually a handful of faithfuls there. And beyond that, just a jazz crowd and a jazz band at the Norfolk Waterside Marriott. But that was not the case this year. They decided to go all out. Not only did they have Deshaun Jackson and did they have Michael Vick, but they also had LeSean McCoy, their former teammate, come on, and that led to some pretty interesting and controversial moments from MEAC Media Day, something that we haven't really had a lot of. So, if you've been online, I was kind of in the middle of it all, so I was really kind of in the periphery of it. So the way that this thing works is the traditional media, or just the people who are not a part of the show that you guys saw, we started loading in there at 7 a.m. Well, I'm not going to say that I was in there at 7 a.m. because I definitely wasn't, but we could get there at 7 a.m. And then the players and coaches have their stations that they sit at, and then they go around and see other folks who are doing television or podcast or web interviews. And yeah, so that's kind of like a behind the scene thing. And I believe this time it was from 9 a.m. until 11:30. So a good amount of time. So there were many outlets that were represented there, much more than usual. Some of the stalwarts that I saw that are always there our box to row Donald Ware. You know, he's been in the game, you know, longer than I for sure. Also, Dr. Cavill, you know, he's been an attendee and a big part of the MEAC media festivities over a number of years as well. And then also you also have myself, Game Day, and a couple other folks as well. But there were a lot of new people. There were a lot of new people, as we knew there would be. And so, yeah. But again, the newcomer that got the most you know, scrutiny for sure would be one LeSean McCoy. So let's kind of just see what is being said out there. What's being said out there in the HBCU Twitter sphere, and I'm sure other social media folks are talking as well. So let me know what you guys thought of it. Again, I'll give more of my thoughts as well, but I think that for me, this MEAC Media Day was about getting out in front of more people, right? It was about getting attention for the schools. And whatever you want to say about the results, they got that. There were more people talking about this MEAC Media Day than I can recall at any time. Not all of it was great. And again, I have to rely on some of my friends here who were there to actually clipped it. Because again, I was kind of in the middle of it all. But yeah, let's see. So LeSean McCoy had a couple of moments that made people uncomfortable.
That's my bad. Brother Howard Vice, Larry Scott here with Hampton. And it's funny, man. You could tell when Hampton's in the building. High standards. Look at that.
We keep letting that go. We're not Hampton. We're the real issue. We are Howard.
That's my bad. Let's give a little bit.
Yeah, because that's my fault.
Brother Howard Vice, Larry Scott here with Hampton. And it's funny, man. You could tell when Hampton's in the building. High standards. Look at that.
We keep letting that go. We're not Hampton. We're the real issue. We are Howard.
That's my bad. Let's give a little bit.
Yeah, because
That's my fault. Brother Howard Vice, Larry Scott here with Hampton. And it's funny, man. You could tell when Hampton's in the building. High standards. Look at that.
We keep letting that go. We're not Hampton. We're the real issue.
Yeah, so there was that was a pretty interesting moment, and it got a lot of feedback. We'll just kind of go from this. Someone wants to ask Gronk why this is a big deal. Seems like a fair question. Someone says that they failed that job interview. Of course, if you guys have been paying attention before today, you would know that. Bring this back up here. If you have been paying attention before today, you would know that LeSean McCoy, upon his friend Deshaun Jackson being hired as the head coach at Delaware State, he kind of put in his bid to become the Howard University head coach. So it's just almost poetic justice. I don't know, was it a Freudian slip that he called it Howard? I don't know. But, anyway, it was not well received, as you can see. And a lot of people feel some type of way about LeSean McCoy being there anyway. Let's just be honest. LeSean McCoy is not an HBCU grad. He is not a trained journalist. And, let's be real. We have never seen him in the HBCU sports world until suddenly when two of his teammates ended up getting a job at HBCUs, and now all of a sudden he's interested. A lot of people felt some type of way about that, and clearly he just kind of gave him plenty of ammo with that. There were a couple other things that he missed out on, and people let him know about it. Yeah, so, you got the Will Smith meme. Yeah. A good friend of the show, Keisha Kelly, says, this is why I say HBCU grads should do HBCU media, not folks who wiggled their way into HBC media. Take from this what you need. Now, I have to... shout out to Keisha. She does a great job. Black College Experience. She does a great job with her platform. She's a Southern graduate, and she is definitely HBCU to the core. I made a statement on Twitter that said HBCU for life and not just for the moment. And that wasn't a dig on me, but for me. But that was really more kind of a statement where a lot of us are coming from. So. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the addition of LeSean McCoy. Was it a bit much? Again, we knew coming into today, from the time that these guys got hired, that and we're talking about Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson. We knew that there was going to be their own set of spotlight on them, and so we got that for sure. We got that for sure today. Obviously, there was, a lot of folks that were in the media were there specifically to talk to them. But, again, there are 4 other coaches in the league. 3 of them have actually won the MEAC previously. So there is quite a bit of, for those folks, there's quite a bit of, trying to be welcoming, but also letting folks know that, they're not just going to roll over, as no one would expect them to. When I talk about, folks like Trey Oliver at North Carolina Central, Chennis Berry over at South Carolina State, and Larry Scott, these are guys who have worked their way up the ranks to become Division I head coaches. Chennis and Trey Oliver are HBCU guys from their inception. And Larry Scott has built Howard into a respectable program, something that, was not always the case. So there is a lot of pride amongst those gentlemen for sure. And, it is definitely... it's definitely not lost on them that a lot of the attention, and probably the reason that we're there in Baltimore, was because of Larry Scott and not Larry Scott, the guy who won Larry Scott's job, LeSean McCoy, but also Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick. Also, if we're honest, again, Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson, I got a chance to sit down with both of them, and we'll definitely see those interviews on HBCU Game Day. We got a couple weeks before the season, so you'll see those out. But, I had a chance to sit down and talk with both of them. I was at Michael Vick's press conference back in December when he, came home and was able to, get his feet wet in HBCU culture. And a lot of folks had things to say about his wardrobe. A lot of people weren't happy that he didn't wear traditional introductory press conference suit and tie. He came in with a varsity jacket and a ball cap. A lot of people felt a certain type of way about that then. And then when you add in, what, you add in Deshaun Jackson, he did wear a suit to his introductory press conference, but today was a little bit of a different story. You had Michael Vick showing up suited up. His guys were suited as well. Norfolk State looked really great. If you look at Brandy, if you look at one of the really creative people in the HBCU Twitter sphere. She says she had Norfolk State ranked first and Delaware State ranked last. Delaware State, they did not go the traditional route. They all went with polos. The gentlemen look really nice, and we've seen players go with polos, right? That's not really anything that's different, but we haven't seen coaches really go with the polo look too much. So, when you have that type of when you have that type of a change, a ruffling of the feathers, it can ruffle some feathers. And, for a lot of people, it felt like, I think the feeling was that, was he taking this seriously? The feeling was he taking this seriously? If he had been at a PWI, say, had he gone back to his alma mater, Cal, would he wear a suit and tie, or would he show up in a polo? I didn't think a lot about it. It didn't surprise me much at the time, but folks are going to have their opinions for sure. And I think, as we learned for sure with the Deion Sanders era, and, especially during it, but also post Deion Sanders era, we learned that, people are very protective of the HBCU space in general. Obviously we have our beefs in front of, and those are out there for the world. And that's what makes HBCU sports great, right? But there is a protective layer that we care about our schools with, first our schools, and then usually in our conference, and then HBCU-wide, because we know the things that HBCUs have faced to even still be here in the 2020s, and especially as we continue to try to learn how to survive in the 2020s under this current administration, we know how hard it is to go out there and be great when the world is against you. And, a lot of us have been taught, indoctrinated with the fact that you put your best foot forward and that you take pride in your HBCU. And so when you see someone who comes in and is, an outsider, we're all, we're black for sure, but, HBCU, that's another level, that's a whole nother layer. And when you see people coming from outside of that, especially folks that, didn't really get the time to go up the ranks and learn it. Again, there are a lot of coaches that played NFL football at HBCUs historically and now as well. Bubba McDowell, who was previously at Prairie View A&M, he played professionally, but he kind of went through the ranks and, and earned his stripes there. When you have a guy like Deshaun Jackson, who is not HBCU, and kind of pops up and says, hey, we're here. And, we know, let's just be honest. We know that Deshaun Jackson was hired to bring excitement to a Delaware State football program that has been anything but exciting over the last decade and a half. Same thing with Norfolk State University hiring Michael Vick. Those guys were brought there to bring excitement, to bring butts in the seats, to bring attention to things like MEAC Media Day. And those things are a byproduct that the conference wisely decided that it was going to try to capitalize on. And I don't begrudge them for it. Again, having seen the MEAC Media Days and having seen how little attention it drew from the media and outside a little bit of Twitter, it seemed in general, they had to do something to make a splash. They got these two guys who are high profile names that you don't have to be an HBCU advocate to know. I get where they were going. I think, again, like we saw with Deion Sanders, there's always going to be some bumps in the road. Again, I think you saw Michael Vick today make an audible, right? Make an adjustment. 8 months after his press conference, he showed up in a suit. No tie. Didn't do a tie, but, suit, looked really good. His players had really nice, impressive green ties. Really great stuff there. But, Deshaun Jackson showed up as Deshaun Jackson, he's not too far removed from being a player. He's 38 years old, so he's a year younger than I am. And, that's going to come with some pros and some challenges. We'll see. Maybe next year in MEAC Media Day, he'll have on his suit, or maybe he'll still continue to be him. But I think more so than the wardrobe, I think there's just always that desire to make sure that, the folks know that HBCUs are sacred spaces, that they are not less than, and that, while we may have our challenges, they deserve the best effort, these institutions, these young men. And I have no doubt that, Deshaun Jackson as well as Michael Vick are looking to put their best foot forward. But again, as we said, there are 4 other coaches in the MEAC as well. It's interesting. We actually had a predicted order to finish. Howard was predicted to finish 5th, which, if you know, last year they were the defending champion. They got picked to finish 2nd, and they took a little bit of a stumble. So, they are actually picked in between Deshaun Jackson in Delaware State and Michael Vick at Norfolk State. Then you have Damon Wilson, who's coming in on season number 4 over at Morgan State. So he's looking to get it done. He's picked to finish 3rd. 2nd, North Carolina Central, Trey Oliver. He had his quarterbacks and the guys from the now infamous Step Brothers photo there. So those guys are excited. If you look at North Carolina Central, they've only lost 4 games in the MEAC over the last 4 years. They lose one a year. 2021, they kept them out of the Celebration Bowl. 2022, they got in still. And then the last 2 years, just kept them out of the Celebration Bowl. So we talked about that. You'll see interviews about that as well. And then we also have at the top, we have Chennis Berry, who a year ago came in. He was the new guy, and his guys were picked to finish 5th. And he talked about how their goal was to get to Atlanta. And in year 1, they achieved it. They steamrolled through the conference. They knocked off North Carolina Central. And so, they had the stigma of being a D2 coach and D2 players and a D2 team. But clearly they showed that they were not less than in any way. And so this year, obviously, I think it's pretty safe to say that stigma is gone. But now they have the target on their back. I talked to the folks over at Howard about, what it was like for them going from the people who were chasing to who were the lead dogs. And they did say that it was a difference and that, they weren't happy with the way that they responded to it, but they look forward to getting back to the top dog status. So there's a lot, but I thought it was a solid media day for the MEAC. Again, you can argue about this LeSean McCoy situation and whether or not it was right. I'll be honest, as a guy who went to school for journalism, such gigs are few and far between. A lot of us, just like the coaches, a lot of us have to work our way up the ranks. Like, me, I've been doing this for 20 years now. And, it's a labor of love. It's something that I went to Winston-Salem State University, decided that I wanted to learn how to do and do it well. I got the best training I could. And then, I decided to start HBCUGameday, and, things took off from there. And, all the great folks that are involved with this endeavor, but it's every day, it's day by day, brick by brick. And, a guy like LeSean McCoy, not sure what his major was at college. I know he said he did a couple years at college, but, he was an athlete, and that has opened doors for him. And, as a black man in America, it's hard to be upset with anybody for getting doors open for them. But I think that, one thing that I think sticks with me is, and I'll pull it up here. One of the friends of HBCUGameday, and just a really bright mind in this space is the one and only Liv for Hoops, and so she had some really poignant comments to make, and here's what Liv had to say. Liv says, "I will always advocate providing opportunities to HBCU graduates, especially when it comes to on-air opportunities. We have so much talent that is developed within our institutions, whether it's media days, sideline reporting, on-air analysis, etc." And I totally agree. We have so many great HBCUs that produce great journalists, students, and as alumni. A lot of our alumni are in these bigger spaces, and yeah, a lot of them could have done what LeSean McCoy did, and to be honest, they could have done a better job. But for the MEAC, this was about seizing the moment. This was about saying, hey, we have two brand name NFL players, as well as 3 coaches, as well as 4 coaches who are damn good at what they do. And let's take this moment while the world is still in the excitement of Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick. We don't know what they're going to look like as coaches. We've got glimpses of spring practice, but we don't know what they look like in a game. Maybe they will come out and take Delaware State and Norfolk State to the top and battle it out for the MEAC title in year 1. Or maybe it's going to take them a while. Or maybe they don't get there. Nobody knows, but right now, that's why I feel like the MEAC had to capitalize on this moment, and they felt like they had to capitalize on it. Now, whether or not they maximized on it, whether or not it was executed properly, I think obviously there were a lot of things that were left to be desired, but they felt like they had to capitalize on this moment, and I think that they gave it their best shot. It was a lot going on. And usually you can't say that about MEAC Media Day. Usually it's pretty stable, it's pretty settled. Some would say boring, so today was a change of scenery. It was the MEAC's chance to try to step out and do something and really build on its brand. So, we'll see. A lot can change in a year. A year from now, maybe we'll look back and say, hey, Deshaun Jackson and Michael Vick got all this publicity and they did nothing with it. Or maybe we'll look back and say, hey, these guys came into this league, first-time head coaches, relied on their coaching staff, brand new talent, and set this thing on fire. And these guys are the future as long as we got them. Or maybe we'll say that, so we just don't know. But I think right now, this is probably the most opportune time you have, because if things don't go well, will there still be some excitement next year about these 2 guys as head coaches? Probably. But I think right now it was a saturation point. The MEAC had to go for it, and they did. And so we'll see what the effects are, but I just wanted to hop on and talk about that really quickly. I know other folks are going to do the same thing as well. So I am going to listen to some folks, read some more tweets, pack up my bags, and get ready to head back down to North Carolina. It's been, before I go, I will say, it's just been really great for me and the in behalf of the entire HBCU Game Day crew. It's been a great media day season. We have been doing this for quite a while, hitting pretty much all of the media days. A lot of times I've been able to do it all myself, as well as others. Wasn't able to do all of those this year because, well, the CIAA and the SWAC had their media day on the same thing, and I can't split myself. But, thankfully, I was able to go to SIAC over in Birmingham. The SWAC, you had myself and Tolly and Wilton Jackson, as well as Simone Stanley there. Also, at the same time in Durham, you had our guy Kobe, as well as Waleed. And on the MEAC SWAC Media Day, I was able to go to that as well. And then finish up here in the MEAC at Baltimore. So it's been great, again, to see the growth of HBCU sports since the time that I started HBCU Game Day back in 2012 has been nothing short of amazing. I actually had a coach, come up to me today. He's currently an assistant, but his former head coach, he was like, man, you've been doing this a long time, and you've been keeping a spotlight on us, and you saw all of this stuff 20 years ago. 20 years, a little bit early, but I've been around for a while, and Game Day has been around for a while, so we appreciate the growth in this space, the growth that we've had as a company, and I appreciate everybody who tunes in, leaves a comment, whether it's ugly or whether it's nice, because all of that helps us grow and continue to do it. We hope you guys enjoy the content. Yeah, so look for a lot of really great content coming into the football season. And of course, we do basketball and everything else as well. So I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And we will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. And I am out.